Voters just approved criminal justice reform by passing two state questions back in November. State questions 780 and 781, downgrading some drug crimes from felonies to misdemeanors. But was the language clear enough? Some lawmakers say no, and now they are working to change some of the wording. Joining us now to talk about this, the original author of this bill, former Speaker of the Oklahoma House, Chris Steele. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this is kind of your baby, State Question 780 and 781, and this was passed by 58% of the voters. When you first heard that some of our legislators wanted to change the language, what was your initial reaction?
Disappointment, frustration, but unfortunately not surprised.
Okay.
The reality is Oklahoma lawmakers, Oklahoma politicians have made a career out of being perceived as quote unquote tough on crime, and that generally translates into mass incarceration for everyone. The reality is there's a reason that we have the highest incarceration rates in the country, and it's because of the mentality that lawmakers feel like they need to incarcerate everyone for everything, including low-level offenders.
For the other side of this issue, we had on Senator Ralph Shorty, who is one of the lawmakers pushing to change the language in your bill. Want to listen to a real quick soundbite because we asked him why. Why is he working to change this language? Why does he think it's necessary?
We completely removed the section of the law that makes it a felony to have drugs on school grounds, for instance, some playgrounds and parks, and then also to use drugs in the presence of a minor child under the age of 12.
Now, is that true? He says it's also now just a misdemeanor to use drugs in front of a minor under the age of 12.
No, there is a lot of misinformation and a lot of misunderstanding surrounding the reforms that the voters passed in State Question 780 and 781. I think it's important to note, for starters, that the ballot titles are written at the 8th grade level, and the Supreme Court of Oklahoma is actually the entity who wrote the description of the reforms the voters were asked to consider. The Supreme Court determined that they were a complete and accurate description of the reforms, and we trust that process. And so the reality is drug distribution, drug manufacturing, regardless of where it takes place, in front of a minor or anywhere in the state of Oklahoma, remains a felony conviction. In addition to that, every school district in the state has anti-drug policies already in place to protect against individuals who would use drugs on or near school grounds.
So it'll remain a felony to shoot up heroin in front of an 11-year-old child? Well,
child endangerment remains a felony conviction in the state of Oklahoma. The difference in these reforms is that simple possession for the person who is simply using a small amount of drugs to feed a personal habit would be reclassified as a misdemeanor, and that person would receive treatment instead of a felony conviction for life. And so it's important to note that unfortunately, a lot of children experiment with drugs, and sometimes that happens at schools. The research is clear that the last thing that we would want to do in that scenario is tag that young person as a convicted felon for life. That only serves to drive that young person deeper into the criminal justice system. Intervention and treatment are much better options, and that's what these reforms allow us to do.
I want to get to a viewer question we had. Found this really interesting. This is from a viewer named Jeff. He says, I work in a jail and the inmates cannot wait for this to go into effect. They ask about it every day. They want their crimes to be grandfathered in. They look forward to getting out because they can sell easier, because if they get caught, it's just a slap on the wrist compared to what they've been getting. You have to keep in mind you are dealing with a totally different mindset. What do you think when you hear that inmates are just jumping at the gun for this to go into effect?
Yeah, I think that's not true, and the research...
He says he works at a jail, though.
I understand, and the reality is that the research is clear. These reforms are based on evidence, they're based on research, they're based on data that has proven to be effective. And what the research says is that when it comes to modifying the behavior of an addict or a person who is mentally ill, we're able to achieve better results through treatment and what we call swift, certain, and sure sanction. So if a person is non-compliant with their treatment, they would have a timeout in a jail for a very short period of time, but they are allowed to continue their treatment program, continue to work, and continue to maintain the stability in their family. And the reality is that we are losing the war on drugs. There's no question about that. our criminal justice system is broken, and when it comes to issues of addiction and mental illness, the better outcomes are when we are able to address those issues through treatment rather than punishment.
What do you think about the 3 strikes policy? This is something we've recently done a story on. One of our senators is thinking about kind of a 3 strikes and you're a felony type of policy because of these now 780 and 781 going into effect. The 3rd time is going to be a felony. Your first 2 can be a misdemeanor. 3rd strike and you're out. It becomes a felony. What do you think about that?
I'm totally opposed to that because, again, we have to understand addiction and mental illness are diseases. They're diseases and they ought to be treated as such. So they're very similar to any other chronic disease, any other chronic condition. So take, for example, the person who battles adult diabetes. They have to learn how to manage that disease and that illness in order to be healthy. Addiction is very, very similar to that. And unfortunately, relapse is often a part of the recovery journey. And so it would be counterproductive to say to the person who is in treatment, if you relapse, now we're going to make you a criminal for the rest of your life. We have to trust the treatment. And if the addiction is truly a disease, it ought to be treated as such for the life of the disease itself. And
so you're against the 3 strikes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So when it comes to issues of addiction, we believe that they're better addressed through treatment and proper mental health care.